Le asked, "Why are you sitting out in the rain without an umbrella?" Huang replied, "It's okay, the rain had already slowed down when I came out. It's quite refreshing, I'm fine." Then they all went back to their respective rooms. After taking a shower and changing into clean clothes, Fluff's husband managed to book a flight for the next evening online. A little while later, Le and Huang came to find them, saying that since they were leaving tomorrow, they should all go to the night market together. The four of them had dinner at the night market and bought quite a few souvenirs to bring back for their friends. On the way back, Le mentioned that Huang still wanted to go to Emperor Island one more time before they left, and that they had already booked a snorkeling tour for the next day. Fluff and her husband exchanged glances, both feeling quite surprised. "You've already booked snorkeling? Are you really going? We're leaving tomorrow evening. Will there be enough time?" Huang assured them. "There's plenty of time. No problem. Our flight is at 10 past 10 tomorrow night, and we'll be back by 4 in the afternoon." Her husband said, "We won't go. We'll take it easy tomorrow and do some more shopping." Le replied, "All right, then we'll meet up at the airport tomorrow." Fluff hesitated for a moment, then finally said, "Are you sure you have to go? I think I'll pass. It's quite a hassle." What she really wanted to say was, what if something goes wrong again? When she heard that the young couple was planning to go snorkeling at Emperor Isle in the next day, she had a bad feeling in her gut. Her husband also sensed Fluff's concern and chimed in, "Yeah, it's tiring. Let's just relax a bit before we leave. You're pushing it too much." But Huang was insistent. "It's okay. I've gone snorkeling many times. It's a rare opportunity, and if we don't go tomorrow, we won't have the chance again." Fluff said, "But what if it rains tomorrow?" Huang replied, "I checked the weather forecast. It's going to be sunny with no rain tomorrow." He was very persistent. At that point, Fluff and her husband didn't want to argue further, but still warned them to be very careful. After everyone returned to the hotel, Fluff asked her husband, "Honey, do you think Huang is really okay?" Her husband said, "He seemed fine today, but he was definitely off yesterday. Maybe we're just overthinking it. He was just really shaken up yesterday." Fluff said, "I hope he's okay, but he seems to be in a pretty good state of mind." The night passed without incident. The next morning, when Fluff got up, it was indeed a sunny day. The sun was shining brightly, and the four of them went to the restaurant together for a buffet breakfast. While they were eating, a staff member came over to Huang and said that the tour bus for the day trip to Emperor Island for snorkeling had arrived. Huang and Le quickly finished their breakfast, packed their things, said their goodbyes, and followed the staff member out. Fluff once again reminded them to be careful. After they left, Fluff noticed her husband staring in the direction they had gone. Just as Fluff was about to ask, "What are you looking at?" she saw her husband point. Following his gesture, she saw Huang get on the bus, then get off again and walk into a nearby convenience store. A short while later, he came out of the store carrying a large bag. Although it was a bit far away, Fluff could see that it was filled to the brim with bottles of mineral water. Huang carried the large bag of mineral water and got back on the bus. At that moment, Fluff felt a chill run down her spine. She looked at her husband in horror and saw the same expression of fear on his face. Fluff quickly stood up and shouted, wait." But by then, the bus had already closed its doors and started to pull away. Fluff shouted a couple of times, but a restaurant staff member came over and politely asked her not to make a loud noise, as it would disturb the other guests. Her husband quickly apologized to the staff member, but Fluff was too anxious. She quickly took out her phone and called Le. As soon as Le answered, Fluff shouted, "Le, don't go, come back right away." On the other end of the line, Le was puzzled and asked, "What's wrong?" Fluff shouted into the phone, "I just don't feel safe. Please come back." Before she could finish, she heard a series of beeps as the call was disconnected. The staff member, who was already anxious, came over again and politely reminded her not to make a loud noise. Her husband quickly apologized once more and led Fluff back to their hotel room. Once inside, Fluff was completely panicked. She tried calling Le again, but the phone kept going unanswered. After a while, it would automatically hang up, which made her even more anxious. She turned to her husband and asked, "What's going on? Why can't I get through? Did something happen?" Her husband tried to comfort her, saying, "Maybe the signal is bad. Let's not worry too much. Buying some water is normal, right? Maybe we're just being overly suspicious. And they're going snorkeling with a group, and there will be lifeguards. There shouldn't be any major issues, right?" But after this ordeal, neither of them felt like going out to buy anything anymore. They just sat in the room, waiting anxiously. They didn't even feel like eating lunch. Around noon, Fluff's phone suddenly rang, startling her so much that she almost dropped it on the floor. She glanced at the caller ID and saw it was Le. A sense of foreboding washed over her, and she hesitated to answer, fearing the worst. After several rings, Fluff's husband picked up the phone. As soon as he answered, they heard Le's heart-wrenching sobs on the other end. Her first words were, "Something's happened to Huang. Something's happened to Huang." Despite having already imagined the worst, hearing the news still sent Fluff into a state of shock. She jumped off the bed and collapsed onto the floor. Her husband was also extremely anxious, but he tried to stay calm and asked Le on the phone, "Tell me slowly what happened. What's going on?" Le, crying uncontrollably, managed to say, "Huang had an accident while snorkeling. He's not breathing now. I don't know what to do. What should I do?" Fluff's husband, still thinking clearly, told Le, "We'll contact the embassy and the tour company right away. You need to get the guide to contact the local hospital immediately. Saving Huang is the priority, hurry up." On the other end, Le, still crying, agreed. After hanging up, Fluff's husband immediately contacted the tour company they had booked the day trip, with requesting that they send a Chinese-speaking staff member to provide urgent support and explain the situation. He then called the Chinese embassy, informed them of the situation, including the location of the incident, and left Le's phone number for them. Soon after, the tour company's staff arrived at the hospital, where Huang was admitted. The embassy also sent a dedicated person to handle the matter. However, despite all efforts, Huang could not be saved and passed away. The subsequent details are not worth elaborating on. The embassy took charge of notifying Huang's family and assisted in contacting relevant organizations to handle the follow-up arrangements. Fluff and her husband canceled their flight for that evening and stayed behind to support Le. Throughout the ordeal, Le was in a state of near collapse. After the initial handling of the situation, Le was extremely exhausted, with a vacant stare and a weary demeanor. Fluff stayed with Le around the clock, fearing that she might fall apart further. It wasn't until 2 days later that Fluff, her husband, and Le boarded a flight back to Beijing together. On the way, it was Le who initiated the conversation about their snorkeling experience at Emperor Island. "When you called me that day, I had just answered and didn't get to say much before my phone automatically hung up. I was puzzled because it restarted for no reason. After it restarted, I realized the battery was low. I remember plugging it into charge the night before, but for some reason it didn't charge. I didn't pay attention, but I had a power bank with me, so I plugged it in." Later at the port, there was a lot of chaos as we were boarding the boat, and I didn't get a chance to call you back. When we got to the snorkeling spot, Huang was very eager and wanted to drag me into the water right away. But I was feeling seasick and uncomfortable, so I told him to go ahead without me and that I would rest on the boat for a bit. Huang was quite upset and insisted that we go in together, saying it was our only chance. But I really didn't feel well and didn't want to go. I didn't go in with him, and that's when he had the accident. At first, I thought he'd just swallowed some water, but then he never came up for air. Les started crying again as she recounted the story. Fluff, trying to stay calm, asked Le if Huang had been drinking a lot of water on the way. Len nodded and said, yes, he was drinking water the whole time on the bus. I told him not to drink so much because it would be inconvenient if he needed to use the restroom later. But he kept drinking, even after we got on the boat. Fluff's husband quickly changed the subject, comforting Le. It's all over now, don't be too upset. This was really an accident. Fluff glanced at her husband and nodded, also comforting the crying Le, saying, it's all over now. After returning to Beijing, Fluff and her husband still felt uneasy and unsettled. Later, they lost contact with Le. The exact circumstances of the incident and the reasons behind the many suspicious details remained unknown, and they chose not to delve deeper. Phuket sees a number of drowning tragedies involving Chinese tourists every year, and while some of these incidents can be found in Chinese media reports, not all are covered, which is not surprising. In closing this story, it is important to remind everyone that safety comes first when traveling. All the joy, enrichment, and broadening of horizons should be built on the foundation of staying safe and secure.